Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Stress Less, Accomplish More call. My name is Stephanie Matos. I'm a mindset coach here on the Brightly Thrive team. And today we are talking about all things mindset, emotional regulation, stress regulation, all of that good stuff. I think we'll have a lot of fun together today. And so, what I want to do is just let you guys know I do have a couple things prepared that I can talk about. However, I love to answer questions and I love to make these things interactive whenever it makes sense. So I know, not everybody wants to talk. That's okay. I'm not going to force you to unmute or anything like that. However, if you feel compelled to chat or ask questions, you can either pop it into the chat or you can just simply unmute. I like to give everybody permission. You're more than welcome to interrupt me. I will not be offended. You can just go ahead and unmute and start talking. Let me go ahead and just see. So we do have one win in the chat. Thank you. Thank you for that. Let me just see if I can actually open my chat. Here we go. Found time to meditate throughout this week is my win. Oh my gosh, that's a huge win. That's like a massive win. Congratulations. That's huge. Thank you for celebrating that. Thank you for letting me celebrate that one with you. I would agree that that's a really huge win. And I think everybody can, myself included, get much better about taking time to just touch base with our breath, quiet our mind. Our mind is very chattery. My goodness, does our mind talk? I think it depends on which research study you look at, but it's anywhere between like 30,000 thoughts to 70 or 80,000 thoughts a day, which basically equates to a book like this that we're writing on a daily basis just with thoughts. And then the interesting thing about the thoughts is that most of them are negative. So again, it depends on which study you look at, but I think it's anywhere between like 50% to 70% or 80% of them, sometimes 90%, depending on what type of, if you're a more pessimistic thinker or optimistic thinker, are negative of those tens of thousands of thoughts that we're thinking. And then on top of that, there's more stats that show anywhere between like 50 to 80% of them, or no, I think it's actually more like 70 to 80 to 90% of them are on repeat. So meaning the negative thoughts that you're thinking today, you most likely have been thinking them for anywhere between 5 to 10 years. So the same ones. So I think it's really incredible if you think about that. Because imagine if you were, which this is totally going off topic of what I had planned to talk about, but I think it's still fun to talk about. Imagine if you were in a room full of TVs or speakers, and all they were doing was berating you with negative things about yourself and negative things about your this and that and how bad you are, blah, blah, blah. It would not be good, and talk about stressful. I mean, it would just be a 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100 stressful. And if you did that for a month straight, it would probably affect your sleep. It would affect your eating. It would affect how you handle your emotions. It would certainly affect your stress. So if you got out of that cave that you were in of those speakers or TV screens and came out, you'd probably be a bit not your best self, to put it lightly. Now imagine if you were inundated with great things about yourself, hearing amazing things about yourself, hearing how great you are, hearing how everything's going to work out, hearing how you can handle all the things that come your way, and you're such an amazing person, and you smell good and you look nice, and whatever, all the nice things that you can think of. And you heard that for a full month straight for 30 days. Imagine how you would feel coming out of there. You'd feel invincible and like you could take on the world. And, who knows what you'd be able to accomplish and achieve. And so I think what we have to do is understand that that's no different than what we're doing in our mind. And what he's described as a win is that he's actually taken the time to quiet the mind, right? And this is so incredibly impactful when it comes to not only stress, because this call is all about stress management, right? However, what's cool is that most of the things that help us with stress management help us with success, help us with happiness, help us with friendships, help us with any kind of relationship that we might have, help us in business, help us in our careers. Like it's cool that one thing that can help this one area or aspect of life, which is what we're on these calls for, actually cascades down and affects health and wellness and just all of the things, which is one of my favorite things about what I get to do, is that it helps people. It's a multi-dimensional approach to how much it helps people. Isaiah, can you tell me how to say your name? I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, and I want to make sure that I'm saying it right. So you can either type it out phonetically or you can just unmute and tell me.
Isaiah.
Uh, Isaiah. I was just way overthinking that.
No,
Isaiah.
no
Okay.
worries.
um, Me and my partner are working on creating a business and got a lot of research done and experience last weekend. Oh my gosh, that's epic. I actually work with people who create businesses, so that's especially exciting for me. I love that. Very cool. Very cool. Um, Okay, you guys. So, what I would love to talk about is, first of all, anything that you would like to talk about comes first. So, if there's anything specific that you would like to either ask me, learn more about, chat more about, I have a pretty broad knowledge around a lot of different things in the brain and habit transformation, emotional regulation, stress management, those kind of things. Also, a lot of health knowledge. My background is in health and wellness. Um, we can talk about any of those things. However, if you would prefer, we can actually just chat about some kind of interesting things that the brain does. Let me know what you guys would like. What would benefit you the most today? It probably would help if I told you what I had in mind. So we just had April Fool's Day, right, on Monday, and that's all about pranks and not telling the truth and all of that kind of stuff. And I was actually thinking on Monday, I'm like, our brain does this on a daily basis. It's like pranking us on a daily basis. It's doing April Fools on a daily basis. So that was kind of what I was thinking about talking about. However, like I said, I would love to hear from you too if there's anything in particular that you'd like to hear about, chat about, talk about, any topics or questions. You can feel free to unmute or type, whichever one feels good to you. And if you are cool with that topic, you can give me a little thumbs up if you want and the emojis. You guys probably already know this because I think you guys are all techie, but there's a little reactions button down here. So what I'll do while I'm just waiting for things to either come into the chat or for you guys to ask your questions. Oh, let's see. I think we got a juicy one. How feeding your subconscious things affects life. Yeah, does make sense. Makes a lot of sense. And it's one of my favorite topics. And that is because our subconscious, so I was just talking about how our brain has a tendency to lie to us a lot. You can't do this. Who do you think you are? You can't handle that. You'll never be able to do this or that. Like it tells us all kinds of things that are definitive statements. But what's interesting is that most of the things that it tells us in the current moment, or how we're even thinking, feeling, and acting, are stemming from things that are in the subconscious mind. So, for those of you who are watching the replay, and even for those of you who are on here, just a quick, very, very quick explanation of this. So you have two different sort of sides of the brain, or the way that the brain kind of extracts information. One is conscious, and conscious is what you're doing now, where like I asked you to unmute and tell me how to say your name, and I asked you to type in wins, etc. So that's actually you telling your brain, perhaps she wants a win. What am I going to say? What's happened? Oh, I can celebrate this. Okay, good. Right. So your conscious brain is actually working. The subconscious is connected to automatic thought patterns, automatic behaviors, the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is connected to your heart beating. You don't have to think about that. Thank goodness. Right? You don't have to think about breathing, right? It's just these automatic things that happen in our body connected to that subconscious programming. And the subconscious programming is running 95% of what we're doing, thinking, feeling, acting, and receiving in our world on a daily basis. And so that shows how powerful this is, and probably tells you why I really enjoy and primarily work in the subconscious, because this is really where we can have a lot of power in what we receive on a daily basis, how we handle stress, how we become healthy or not healthy, how we think positively or not positively, right? So let me see this really quick. I love your questions, you guys. Thank you so much. I tell my subconscious brain to figure things out or come to solutions in my sleep. You can do that. When I go to bed, I will repeatedly focus on sending my subconscious the message this message, not sure if it works that way, but I'd be curious your input. Okay, so it works that way for sure. It does. And however, there's a caveat. Okay. So our subconscious brain has a filter system on it, and the filter system is created by everything you've experienced up until this point. So what you saw on TV growing up, what you saw in movies, what your parents taught you about money or success or relationships or whatever, what's safe or not safe, right? So for example, if you grow up in some other country, their version of safety or what people do is very different than if you grew up in the United States or whatever it is, right? So their subconscious is going to be very different. And so when your subconscious is searching for answers, it's going through the filter that's already existing there, right? So if your filter system is set to, and I like to talk a lot about optimist versus pessimist because it's a black and white concept that is very easy to kind of wrap your head around. And also there is so much research and science that's been done on optimist versus pessimist. So just to kind of distill it down that quick or that clearly, right? Let's say this optimistic filter system is going to give you a very different answer than the pessimistic filter system. Okay. So let's say it's like, and you can even maybe type a question in here or something, but like let's say you ask it, I'm just not really sure what to do with this relationship that I'm in, or I'm just not really sure what to do about this business that you were just saying that you guys are you and your partner are working on or whatever it is. If you have a pessimistic filter, what's going to happen is that it might come up with, don't do that, it's scary, it might go wrong. Right? If you have a more optimistic thinking mindset, it might say, man, that's a great opportunity, go for it, the only way that you can know is if you try, the only way to fail is to quit, the only way to be lucky is to put yourself in the arena and do it, so let's go. Right? Can you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? How it's now on top of that, right? What is very true is that when you are going into sleep or out of sleep, so when you're first dozing off or when you're first waking up, that's when you have the most kind of connection to your subconscious or ability to install things or whatever. And I don't know if you guys are so you guys know Mike Tyson, the heavyweight champion of the world from the 80s or whatever. So he had a coach that would, and I don't know if he knew he was doing this, but he would literally in his sleep like wake him up and be like, you're the king of the world, you're the best in the world, you're gonna da 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 da. So he was literally programming him. Now I don't know if this is the best thing to do. Okay, so first of all, caveat here, I'm not really sure that this was 100% the best thing for him because he did have a tumultuous stuff happen after this. However, what he did was he started to believe in himself like no other, to the point where he was the heavyweight champion of the world when he was 18 years old. Okay, I don't know if I even think about my nephew who's 24, it's like, whoa, Mike Tyson was the heavyweight champion of the world at 18. And, most kids can't even handle a college application. You know what I'm saying? And so what we want to understand is that what we watch before bed, what we're listening to as we fall asleep, what we tell ourselves when we wake up, like, oh, today's going to be the most horrible day. I just already know it. Like, oh, here we go, another Monday, blah, right? These kind of things. Or if it's Sunday, it's like, oh no, it's Sunday, blah, 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 right? So we want to be really careful with what we watch, what we read, what we're listening to, what we're installing into that subconscious programming, specifically in the sleep areas and close to sleep, right? Kind, nice, loving, positive, not crime shows and that kind of stuff, which is really, really popular these days. A lot of people like to just, put these in their ears and listen to all kinds of really horrible things. And it is not the greatest for our mind. Let me see this really quick. Yeah. Oh, well, he wasn't necessarily hypnotizing him, although hypnosis does have a lot of research on accessing different areas of the brain. Now, hypnosis, I think, gets a bad reputation sometimes because we think about people clucking like a chicken or like doing it on stage. That is one form of hypnosis. However, there's another form of hypnosis that is very repairing and restorative and I mean, just incredible. And if you think about hypnotism, really what it is accessing different brainwave frequencies, like into different brainwave frequencies so things can install and embed. Now, what's interesting about that is one of the reasons why when we're children, things install and embed really pretty intensely. Doesn't mean that they're not changeable or fixable or, malleable. They still are, but they embed pretty hardcore because children's brain waves have a tendency to be very slow. So they're very slow. So what happens is that almost everything is going into subconscious, right? As adults, we start to get into high beta a lot, which is more stressful, anxiety, blah, 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 like this, like what you're doing when you're on your computer or whatever you're doing. And that doesn't allow access as much to that. Neville Goddard has a really interesting ladder technique that I've been working on testing myself. What an awesome conversation, you guys. Still in the testing phase. I'd love to hear more about it. Yeah, you know what? I heard this on, I didn't know either. So when I found this out was on a documentary. So I watched a documentary and I went, oh wow. So when because he's his coach, I think they got together when he was like, let's say 13 or something. And he actually lived at the house with him. And so he, like, for years was doing this. It wasn't just like once or twice he did it. He was doing it. Now, again, I
Oh,
don't
wow.
know how beneficial it was. I guess to make a winner and a beast, right? In
Yeah.
the ring, it really worked for that. But making somebody who could handle life situations, maybe not so much, right? I think that we could use this knowledge in a more loving and kind and caring way. However, this is exactly what they were doing. This is what he was doing, right?
Hmm.
Let me just see this really quick. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Do you guys have any questions? Feel free to unmute.
No, so far everything
Let
seems
me see
okay.
what Colby
No, this,
has
this is
put
a
in
cool
here.
conversation.
Very
I agree.
hemisync. I'll have to look at
Yeah,
this.
I shared those because you mentioned brainwaves, and it is essentially they're just binaural beats, but they're the ones who have the patent behind it. But essentially, it just connects the two hemispheres through different beats, and I use it for meditation, but allows you to kind of enter into slower, like the delta theta brainwave state and stuff.
Oh,
So
wow.
I just figured I'd share it 'cause it's really cool. I'm still testing a lot of this out and just kind of seeing how it implements into my life, but it's interesting.
I love
Love
that.
it.
Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
agree. If it so there is so much research on brainwaves, and it's incredibly interesting to say the least of what is possible when you can start to dip into brainwave frequencies on your own, right? So one thing just to make sure everybody knows is that you have to do them with headphones because it's bilateral. So what they're doing, so if I just listen to it here, it's not doing the same thing as it does when it's in the because like one side will go then the other side will go or both will go or whatever. So it's a bilateral thing that's accessing both sides of the brain for specific reasons. So that's the only caveat is that you want to make sure you're wearing headphones, and the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. And so the cool thing about this is that you want to be doing this before you need it, right? So same with breath work. Like let's use like breathing, right? So deep breathing is a really, really, really awesome thing that you can use to decrease your stress levels. Just activating that relaxation response. You can also kind of tap on different meridian points and stuff like that. That also helps with just calming the nervous system down, right? However, what the research shows is that when you're practicing this on a daily basis and not just when you're literally in a panic attack, it works so much better because your body understands what it's doing. It understands how to elicit it. It's kind of like riding a bike. The more you ride a bike, if you're in a freak out, stressed out state and you jump on a bike and you've never ridden one before, you're gonna be very uncoordinated, not know how to do it. But if you've done it a million times, you'll jump on the bike and be fine, right? And so that's important with these brain waves as well, is that you can start to utilize them at night. You can use them at night before you go to bed, when you first wake up. You can start to play around with setting powerful intentions. So what your original question was like I don't even know what the original question was. It was something about the subconscious programming and adding things to it or something along those lines. And so brainwave frequencies is one of the ways that you can kind of tap into that, right? So having mantras or affirmations or things that you really want to come to fruition, ways that you want to change your mindset, change the way that you think, change the way that your body handles stress, change the way that whatever, just optimizing things, right? That's what you can actually also use these brainwave frequencies for, is to help you install some of these things a little bit deeper in the subconscious programming. Now, one thing about subconscious is that I think most of us wish that we could go in and say, I don't like that thought, pluck it out and throw it away, right? And
Yeah.
so we can't, yeah, I agree. I wish that I could teach you how to do that. What the research shows is that it's not about taking it away or cutting it to pieces or ripping it out or whatever. What it is making a different path. So the more that you're making this path, it's kind of like, if you want to look at, like, this is doom, gloom, death, destruction. This is positivity, light, love, success, all of the good things, right? So if this one has been gone down more frequently, what happens is this is like an 8-lane highway and this one's like the jungle, right? But every single time you put on your brainwave frequencies or just simply do a meditation or set that powerful intention or use your deep breathing appropriately or use your affirmations, whatever it is, this starts to get hacked away. Oh, wow. Now there's a dirt path. Okay. Now there's a 2-lane little road. Now it's 4 lanes. Now it's however, now this one's 8 lanes. While this one, the opposite starts to happen. It starts to crumble. Little grass starts to grow through the things, then all of a sudden a tree starts to take over and roots start to break it up. And then all of a sudden this is a jungle. Right. And so I think that if we can look at these things as dimmer switches and not on off switches, this can be so helpful, because it can be very annoying. It can be a little bit annoying when you feel like you've been working on the same thing over and over again and it doesn't seem to be taking hold. And the truth is that in the neurology, right? So neurology is like a web. Like if you look at it, it grows and it kind of webs out like this. However, neurology also itself grows stronger and thicker. So the more you use it, you might have like baby version. So it's like you have this big, like Arnold Schwarzenegger arm if you want, and then like a little teeny tiny baby arm, right? But the more you pump this one, the more you pump this one, the more you pump this one, the bigger, thicker, stronger it becomes. And that takes a lot of practice. So it gets myelinated. There's these things called myelinated sheaths is what they're called. But what that is like a fatty white layer that goes around the neurons that makes the messages go faster, faster, faster. But that is actually a structural change. Just like if you want abs or glutes or whatever, it takes a lot of time over time of doing certain exercises, specific exercises, feeling discomfort in those muscles, right? Until you get to a critical mass of muscle fiber growth. And that's the same with this neurology, which is connected to the subconscious programming, positive thinking, all of this kind of stuff. And so when it has to get to a critical mass is the thing where it tips over in an opposite direction. And what happens is that a lot of people get discouraged when they don't have results in 3 days and 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or what happens sometimes, did you have a question? Please feel free to ask if you have one.
Me? No.
Okay. So the other thing that can happen is that you could do it really, really well one day and then really stink at it another day, right? So let's use language as an example. If any of you guys have tried to learn a new language or are bilingual, you will know that there might be days that you're like, whoa, I just completely spoke fluently. And then the very next day, maybe you didn't sleep enough, maybe you ate too much sugar, maybe you didn't eat enough, whatever it is, all of a sudden you're like, how do I say door again? Like, you know what I mean? It's like you just had a full on conversation with somebody and it was like ebbing and flowing. And you're just like, wow, I can't even believe these words are coming out of my mouth. And then the next day it's like, it's gone. Right. And so what we want to understand is that that's only because you're still working on like it becoming that habitual myelinated thing that's just, you don't have to think about it. And that takes practice and different things. So if somebody's mean to you, again, if you don't sleep enough, if you don't eat correctly, if you eat, too many preservatives, if you don't take your vitamins or whatever it is, all of that can have an effect on your hormones levels. Your feelings are essentially chemicals in the body. That's essentially what they are. So any feelings or whatever are generally connected to thoughts. So it's important to be gentle with yourself on this journey and be kind to yourself on this journey and be proud of yourself on this journey, because it doesn't happen overnight, but it certainly will happen. And it's 1,000% worth it every single time. You guys, our time is up. Time flies when you're having fun. As you guys can tell, I can talk about this all day long for hours on end. I feel very lucky that I get to do this as a job and I get to hang out with people like you. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for asking questions. It's so much more fun when we can riff off each other than when I'm just like, here's the presentation, right? I will do it. I will do it. And I have no problem doing it. However, this is so much more fun and so much more impactful. So I really appreciate it, you guys. All right. So I'll be back again next week, Monday and Thursday. So hopefully I get to see you guys again. All right,
Awesome.
everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day and have a great week. Bye.